How's the food so far? Wonderful, awesome. Well, listen, I'd like to take a moment before we get started here to just acknowledge our development chair, Ms. Vivian Light Johnson, who's responsible for this evening. Her and her committee have been able to put this together. This is our 4th annual event. This is by far my favorite event of the year. This is where we get to come out and say thank you to the people that are making the phone calls, knocking on the doors, and actually making a difference in Orange County. And if you haven't heard this yet, I know I've said this a couple times, but last year, going into the election cycle, the DEC did over 630,000 attempts to reach voters in Orange County. That's 2 times for every single Democrat in Orange County. And that would not be possible without the work and the efforts of the people in this room. So please join me in giving them a round of applause. The people in this room represent candidates, represent grassroots activists, represent elected officials that have gone out there and spoken to the voters and made sure that our message, a Democratic message, is what's taken to the ballot box on Election Day. In Orange County, we were for the first time able to flip a county commission from 5-2 Republican to 5-2 Democrat, which is amazing. We have an all-female county commission and our first Democratic mayor in over 20 years, which is awesome. We have an all-female school board, which is great to have such strong women leadership here in Orange County. And none of that would be possible without the work of the people in this room. You know, making sure, especially those nonpartisan races, that voters know who are the Democrats running for office, who are the people that we're going to, if they get elected, represent our values in office. And so the party, when I took over, that was my commitment to make sure that in those nonpartisan races, we said, hey, these are the Democrats that are running, make sure you support them. And with overwhelming success, we did a great job in 2018. I'd like to take a moment for a privilege here and acknowledge our tax collector, Scott Randolph. And if you haven't heard yet, the Supreme Court of Florida today issued an opinion which overturned the Orange County constitutional amendment that said that the constitutional officers are nonpartisan. So moving forward, voters will still be able to determine if they're voting for their tax collector, their clerk of courts, who's the Republican, who's the Democrat. That is a huge win for us here in Orange County. And if it weren't for our tax collector, Scott, and our property appraiser, Rick Singh, continuing to challenge that all the way up to the Supreme Court, it would not be possible. So we owe them a big round of applause and thank you. And I would also like to just take a few moments here as well to acknowledge any of the candidates from 2018 or candidates right now. If you can just raise your hand so we can acknowledge you and say thank you for putting yourself on the line, representing our values. Thank you so much. And I would also like to take a moment just to acknowledge our sponsors this evening. We have Harris Cloud Consulting. We have Joan Cleary, Monica Reedus, Noreen Hyder, Scott Taylor, Stuart Buchanan, and Vivian Light Johnson. Let's give them a round of applause, please. And with that, if you guys are okay with eating, we're going to go ahead and slide into our award presentations. We're going to start because this time is really valuable, and we appreciate you making time for us this evening. It was important for me. I've grown up here since I was a kid. You know, we're all familiar with the commercials on TV for the people. And, you know, Mr. Morgan started his law practice here 31 years ago now, I believe, and has made it a point to be an advocate for the average Central Floridian. Has made it a point to improve the quality of life for us here in Central Florida. And as his business has grown and as his influence has grown, he's continued to put it to good use to improve the quality of life here in Florida. If you don't remember, back in 2012, the Florida legislature basically shut down medical marijuana, and they would not allow it to go forward. Tallahassee has been nothing but a roadblock for us. And so in 2014, he worked to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot. And we came up just short with that. And rather than stop and go away, he doubled down. And in 2016, we got the medical marijuana amendment passed. But as we know, Tallahassee loves to mingle and meddle with things. And so they put the no smoke ban in place, which makes no sense at all. And they basically told 71% of Floridians that they didn't know what they were voting for when they adopted medical marijuana. And again, instead of just, saying, all right, thanks, he doubled down and sued the state of Florida and said, no, that was not the intent of the voters, and challenged Rick Scott to make sure, in the legislature, to make sure that smokable marijuana for medical patients was legal. And through a lot of work and a lot of challenges, he persevered and got that passed. And so I want to say thank you for that. And then last year, he wanted to continue to advance quality of life for Floridians here in our state. He made an announcement that the Morgan & Morgan law firm was going to raise the minimum wage for all of their employees to $15 an hour. But that wasn't enough. He said, I'm going to take the experience from the medical marijuana constitutional amendment and apply it to a state constitutional amendment to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour for every Floridian across the state. And so they're currently collecting signatures for that. And it's hopefully going to be on the ballot here in 2020, so we want to say thank you for that very much. So when we had the opportunity to recognize you and say thank you, we couldn't think of a better person to honor with our Lifetime Legacy Award. You've made a commitment to Central Florida. You've made a commitment to the citizens of our county, of our region, to improve our quality of life. And it's my great honor to represent and recognize you with our Lifetime Legacy Award. Mr. John Williams.
I will say two things. First, and most importantly, if you remember nothing about my speech tonight, remember this. If you've been injured in an automobile, early job. I get some food poisoning here at the holiday. That chicken looked kind of shaky to me. I said, I'll stop at Wendy's on the way out of here. Call Morgan & Morgan. Fighting for the people. And the second thing I will say is getting this award is a great thing, but it's also a very bad thing. Because the only people that get Lifetime Achievement Awards are old people. I don't feel old, but I guess I am old. And so when they start doling out Lifetime Achievement Awards, you gotta say, my God, how did that happen? How did that go so fast? So I wanted to come here because this is where I live. My offices are all over the country now, in Boston, Philadelphia, New York, and Los Angeles, places offices I've never been to yet. But this is where everything started. I've been at 20 North Orange since day one. I've never left that building. And so this is where my roots are. I went to a thing once with the church, and they said, you can't solve the problems of the world, but you should bloom where you're planted. And so when I have an opportunity to bloom, it's usually here, because this is where I was planted. Now I will tell you all this. I know that we're supposed to always separate church and state, and that is vital to the Constitution, everything we believe in. But the one thing I've never been able to separate is the things I learned in church. And the things that I learned in church were things like, I'm Catholic, were things like feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, clothe those without. All those things that I learned in church is what makes up my politics. One time I tweeted, and I got a lot of hell for it. I said, Jesus was a Democrat. and not just a Democrat, he was a liberal. I'm a liberal. I don't know at this day and time, liberal may be conservative now. I don't know. I mean, it's like, you used to couldn't say liberal. Now you say liberal, you're like, I'm the conservative one in the room. But not only was Jesus a Democrat, Muhammad was a Democrat, and Buddha was a Democrat, and Moses was a Democrat, and the Dalai Lama was a Democrat. We got to go, our family got to go to the Dalai Lama's home in Dar es Salaam. Nancy Pelosi took us there a couple of years ago. And when you look at all these great teachers who taught us all of our religions, it was all about service and compassion and kindness to each other. And when I look at the two parties, to me it's a no-brainer. In the last election, we really got to see what it meant to be an evangelical. What they really were, who they really are. And I'm thinking, that's not what I think of evangelicals to elect a guy like Donald Trump. I never go out and post anything negative about Donald Trump. I save that for everybody else. I just tell everybody, don't complain, vote.
That's right.
Don't complain, vote. But I am amazed at the meanness and the hatefulness that goes on. I'm amazed that in this state, 3 times we elected Rick Scott to governor, senator, and I wonder who are our neighbors that are voting for these people. Rick Scott took the Fifth Amendment more times than Al Capone, John Gotti, and Casey Anthony all tied together. And we elected him.
Yeah, we do.
And I just, one of the things I wonder are who are my neighbors? What are they really thinking? When they go to their church, how do they square their votes? Because what I think government is supposed to be is about service to each other, to help the hopeless and the powerless and the desperate. One of the blessings and bad parts of my life is there was a time in my life where we were very, very poor and very, very desperate and very, very hopeless. And as bad as that was, I'm glad it happened. Because if you've ever tasted desperation, if you've ever tasted helplessness, if you've ever tasted hopelessness, you will never, ever forget it, or you shouldn't, for the rest of your life. And so my politics has really never been about the Democrats or the Republicans. What I really believe is that most of us believe in most of the same things. that most people are decent, but we get boxed in these two boxes, and a very few people select who gets elected. And so when they were talking about me running for governor, I really thought about it. When you all of a sudden you see yourself high in the polls and all this, but then I think about my life and how good that is. And so I decided that what my path would be is, instead of doing that, is that I would do the medical marijuana, I would sue the state, I would win, and then this minimum wage. I believe that the issue of our day is a fair wage and work with dignity. And I believe that all of the talk about socialism and all of the talk about democratic socialists and all this comes from a place where people are very, very desperate. And they're desperate because they get up every day and they do all the right things. They put on their uniform, they go to work, they do all the right things, yet most people don't have $400 in the bank. The transmission goes out and it's over. And then they go out and do all the right things for all the right reasons. And they get their $320 paycheck. And then you got to pay child care and gas, and what happens if your transmission goes down. And then they drive in their uniforms out here to Mercy Drive, to the Morgan Hunger Relief Center at Second Harvest. The reason I gave that place millions and millions and millions of dollars is because the need is so great, and because this is where I was planted. And so I'm on this ambitious endeavor to do this amendment. In Tallahassee, they're trying to change all the rules on me right now. They're trying to make it harder to get people on the ballot, who can collect signatures. And I said, before it's all over, they're going to say you got to have, red hair and miss a pinky to be able to collect signatures. But whatever they do, whatever law they come up with, they're not going to stop me, because it will be more expensive, but they're not going to stop me, because I believe most people believe that we should help the most people that are in need. And so we'll see how this all ferrets out. But I have been a part of a lot of incredible campaigns. I've had Obama at my house as a senator, and Obama at my house as a president, and I've had the Clintons there so many times I think they got their pajamas in the back bedroom. Bill Clinton and I text each other all the time. Let me read something that he wrote me last night. And Nancy Pelosi took us to see the Dalai Lama in Dar es Salaam. When she was sworn in, she invited me to the house, and I sat with her family in the gallery, and I looked down at all of those women that were being sworn in, and that little Nancy Pelosi, goddamn. And she's down there, 79 years old, and she's the one that Trump fears. So I've had all these great moments through politics. I'll read this thing to Clinton because I just thought of it. I wrote him, I said, what blows me away is the meanness of the other side. Just meanness. And he wrote this, he just texted this on the fly. You may not like me doing this, but I'll do it anyway. He wrote, Tuesday at 4:48 p.m. We are living in the age of resentment as evidence of authenticity. Great times for bullies, BS, denigration of honest argument and facts. Seeing time-honored rules and norms as hidey holes for the establishment. Too many people crave the toxic combination of cruelty and ignorance that feeds the fires of a divisive nationalism. It will cost our country and our future dearly. That was a text from his home, just on the fly. That's why that guy's so good. I said, you need to make, I told him, I wrote back, I said, you need to make this an op-ed.
Right.
And so, we cannot complain about Trump, and we cannot complain about Rick Scott. All we can do is vote. And we got to remember, at our core, who the Democratic Party is we're committed to service to each other. And another person who I'll close with a prayer about her, that is Mother Teresa, who I also think was a liberal Democrat on steroids. And she had a prayer that I'll leave you all with before I leave. And it's called A Simple Path, and it goes like this. The fruit of silence is prayer, and the fruit of prayer is faith, and the fruit of faith is service to each other, and the fruit of service is peace. And that's what we all strive, is that peace that we can only get from service to each other. Politics is not politics. Politics should be about service. And so thank you for tonight, and I wish all of you all of God's peace that you deserve. Thank you for this award.
There we go.
And now, thank you again, Mr. Morgan, for coming and being here tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you again for everything you're doing. If you would help me welcome to the stage our development chair, is going to act as our mistress of ceremonies, Ms. Vivian Light Johnson.
Thank you, Chair Hodge. And thank you, Attorney Morgan. We really appreciate your presence here. And I wouldn't be the development chair if I didn't start by letting everybody in the room know that I brought envelopes tonight. Because I just know that there are people who've heard this little thing that's starting to bubble up in our DEC. And it's all about, we should have an office in Orange County. Have you heard that? Yeah. I've heard that. Well, you have opportunity tonight, if you'd like, to be one of the first donors to make that happen. So you just let us know and we will make sure you get an envelope. Now, to the reason we're here in this room, we are just so delighted that we're able to have this grassroots celebration. And I see Tiffany's back there talking to Attorney Morgan, but Tiffany Naney was one of the original thinkers of having a grassroots celebration. And I just wanted to acknowledge her tonight because she understands that it's important to give people flowers while they live. And so this is Orange County DEC's opportunity to give you your recognition while you can still hear it and appreciate it, and we're just delighted that we have so many people in the room. So let's give Tiffany a round of applause. So our first award is the Cannon Porter Award. And this award is in honor of Marion Cannon and Katie Porter. And it's dedicated to a woman who epitomizes the principles and values of the Democratic Party because she has led the way by example by leading and organizing in her community. And our special person, and by the way, all of our nominees were nominated by someone in the DEC. And so we appreciate that, that people took the time to look around and to see people who need to have this recognition. So our Cannon Porter nominee and award, Porte, I'm going to get it to you, keep telling me, this person was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, received a diploma in nursing from Washington Hospital in Washington, D.C. And she received a bachelor's of nursing from the University of Maryland in Baltimore. And she has lots of stories that she tells, and I'm not going to try to tell her story, but you know, my favorite one, and I hope you get a chance to talk to her, is her story about privilege. I love her passion when she tells it, because it's one of those things that a lot of people don't recognize. So when you hear it, so I'm giving you, if you don't have a reason to talk to her nominee, here's your reason to go up and say to her, I need to hear your story. So she was first involved in politics with Hillary Clinton campaign as canvasser, and she attended the Women's March in Washington, D.C. in January 2017, where she experienced the grassroots support of men and women from across the USA. She is a dedicated member of the DEC and the Democratic Women's Club of West Orange County since February 2017, lives in Winter Garden, Florida, with her husband, Joe Earl Wolf, and she has lots of hobbies like movies, reading, and science, and we're just thrilled to be able to honor Sarah Wolf.
I was on a walker until 3 weeks ago. Thank you for this honor. I'm humbled and I feel privileged to be able to represent Grassroots. And my friend Patty Tate is here. She's the one that got me started in this. She said back in 2016, let's go put signs in our yards for Hillary Clinton. I'm not afraid of that. And I said, I'm not afraid either. I don't care if somebody does anything to it, I'll just go get another sign. So we went downtown and then we went to the wrong office. So we went to another office and we walked in and said, we're looking for a sign. And she said, we're looking for you. You need to volunteer. And so we did. And we all of a sudden we were calling people and we were knocking on doors. And I said to Patty, what happened? She said, this is what it's all about. So thank you, Patty Tate, for getting me started. And after that, I wasn't shy anymore. I want to tell you something. I love knocking on the doors. I love talking to people. All those years I was in geriatric nursing, I listened and I heard what people said. And I am using those skills today. So wherever you think you've been and whatever you think you need to do now, do it, because this is our chance. I also want to thank Mel Lopez for teaching me Van, oh my God. And Joan Cleary and Vivian Light Johnson and Monica Reedus for getting me involved with the Democratic Women's Party. and learning how to call Dems and postcard parties, all of which are the soil and the rain for Grassroots that will bring us to victory in 2020. Thank you.
Our next award is the Harris Naney Waxman Lifetime Achievement Award. This award is given in honor of John Kelly Harris, Rick Naney, and Jerry Waxman. The nominee is a person who has committed their lives to the promotion of free speech, civil rights, protection of the environment, economic equality, and peace. The nominees have dedicated themselves to fighting for what is right through advocating for the goals and values of the Democratic Party of Central Florida and the Progressive Party. I won't leave them out because they are well represented tonight. We appreciate that. Our awardees is Jim and Marie Chervino. Jim has always tuned into having earned a political science degree in Lehigh University. He began his public service by joining the Army and defending our country overseas. Jim retired from the Army and worked as NASA procurement in Washington, D.C. while attending law school. He then moved to Maitland to work as an administrative law judge for the Social Security Administration and was also elected to 2 terms of the Maitland City Council. And he's done a number of other things. Now, Marie, on the other hand, did not always participate in politics. It was not until her concerns over the looming health care crisis did she get involved. She has seen firsthand inner workings of the health insurance industry, and when she started teaching water aerobics with the YMCA, she began to hear about horror stories from those who were trying to make do without insurance. Marie really got involved. Following her personal phone calls to attend a 2008 Obama office opening in Winter Park. So Marie has done so many things. I'm not going to try to list them all. But she certainly has worked tirelessly in the Democratic Party and with community groups. She's worked with people who have been frustrated at the election results, but she manages to keep people together and they've been writing thousands of postcards, phone calls, even hosting speakers featuring the Democratic candidates for governor. So I can't even begin to tell you all the things that Marie has been involved in, and every time I talk to her, she tells me, there's a lot going on. So we're just delighted to be able to honor Jim and Marie. Come on down.
Stand in front of the podium. Vice Chairman.
I like gentlemen helping. Okay. First, speaking in public has never been one of my favorite pastimes, but I do want to say this. Somehow in my bio, something got left out. And what I want to tell about is the night of the most god-awful election in the history of our country, I think. Pat Robertson and Janann Smither and I sat there with the dregs of a potluck, what was supposed to be a victory party. And we just looked at each other and said, we have to organize. We need to keep the energy going. How are we going to fight this? And so that was the beginning of our organization. Some of the people have been involved since as far back as John Kerry. I got in a little late, but it was because of a very personal phone call. And I hate to admit this, quite a while back, we weren't even Democrats. So, I know. So, I'm going to read you my little speech because already I feel like the few I've heard are they're hard acts to follow. But for what it's worth, this is what I've worked on for a few days. Number one, I am really humbled by this award to me and my husband, and I thank you very much. I know a lot of you. And to me, this means so much more than personal approval. I feel it has more to do with the Democratic Party recognizing grassroots and progressive work as supportive and integrated. Whether you're a blue dog, yellow dog, former Republican, NPA, independent, grassroots, or progressive, we do all work toward the same goal. And there are 20 grassroots, 21 actually, here tonight, that speak loudly of our organization's positive energy. I want to thank you all for coming and supporting me tonight. That was overwhelming to me. It just speaks loudly of the energy this group has put together and kept going. We meet every week. Central Florida Grassroots Progressives is a resource organization. We must battle together this consolidation of power. Our country and around the world and Florida, it's just really taken its toll. Melinda Gates said it well. We are all blessed and privileged. Maybe they're more privileged than we are, but that's okay. But we do not have to live everyone's experience to feel empathy, to say, let's change this, and then to ask, what can I do? All of you share these feelings. I know you do, or you wouldn't be here tonight. But 2020 is not merely about ourselves getting involved. It is about enabling and energizing others to spread our message everywhere. We must multiply all our own efforts. And together, being together, makes the difference. So thank you very much. I'm going to get good at posing.
Yeah, you're going to have to eat afterwards, I'm sorry.
Yes.
You guys want to be next to each other?
This is just fun.
honor of Chase Smith. Our nominee is a person who is a proud LGBT activist. The awardee is deeply involved in their community and have strong passion for helping others. Not only are they there in time of need, but they work to inspire others to get involved and to give back to their community. Our awardee is a longtime LGBT rights and activist in Central Florida. I don't know why I'm getting so nervous. Marie, you did that to me. I'm so excited about it. He served as the past president of the Rainbow Democrats of Orange County chapter in Florida Democratic LGBT Caucus. As the owner of Savoy Orlando, Brandon has built a political hub for the LGBT community of Orlando. Throughout the year, he hosts several fundraisers and events which benefit various Democratic candidates and organizations which advocate for the LGBT rights in Central Florida. His annual Celebrity Bartender event hosts many local politicians and politicos as one-night bartenders, with all proceeds going to groups such as the Center Orlando, the One Pulse Foundation, and others. Brandon has also been a distribution point for the Orange County Democratic Party's voter guides the past few election cycles, as well as providing information regarding the vote by mail and election participation to the community. Brandon has been a great supporter of the DEC, allowing us to host several events and meetings in his commercial space. We have been allowed to host several watch parties, fundraisers, and meetings as a result of his generosity. And so for that, we are more than honored to present to Brandon our Chase Smith Award. Our next award is the Pugh Swanson Award. This award is in memory of Irby Pugh and Henry Swanson. Our awardee is a true champion and advocate for Florida's environment. She demonstrates passion and purpose, raises public awareness while working the political corridors throughout Florida on behalf of our animals, creatures, fish, trees, and water. She provides a voice to protection and preservation as an environmental champion. University of Central Florida and a JD from Florida International University College of Law. We are honored to present the Gonzalo Capristan Award to Alex Barrio.
Thank you, everyone. Because I'm the last one, they said I could speak till 9. hand. So, thank you to DEC. Thank you to everybody that has believed in me and given me opportunities, including the Randolphs way back in the day. After John Kerry lost, John Kerry, our 2020 nominee, as you all may have heard, after he lost in 2004, I was very disillusioned. I was 19 years old, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do now. And then I met the Randolphs. They're working on a petition campaign for redistricting, where I discovered my passion for redistricting. That's the second half of my TED Talk. And through them, I worked with Clean Water Action, then helped Scott get elected to the State House, and it set me... There he is. Yeah, there she is. And so, really set this path. So I'm very proud and honored to have been part of Orange County politics and Osceola County politics now for a long time. Shifting gears, last year, I just want to tell a story because we were talking about immigrant activism, and it is more important than ever to be an activist for the immigrant community right now. My grandparents came from Cuba. They were asylum seekers, or as our president calls them, animals. And, you know, understanding the attitude that we're dealing with. And I think about last year when I was working as district director for Congressman Soto, pretty much for the first year of that job, working on the case of Alejandra Juarez. I don't know if you know her, but she was a woman who had been in the United States for over 20 years, married to a U.S. citizen, veteran, Trump supporter. She had 2 U.S. citizen children, but because she got a speeding ticket and had overstayed her visa 20 years ago, last summer I was at the airport with her when she got deported and sent back to Mexico. And it's frustrating to know that she is just one of thousands of people that are being targeted. A few weeks ago I was in Tallahassee with the Alianza team, Alejandro here and Williams, and we were talking about SB 168, which is a bill that forces local governments to enforce federal immigration laws and essentially deputizes our police in Florida to become Trump's deportation force. They are setting the legal foundation for a regime that will forcibly remove brown people from this country. That is their goal, that is their plan. They are white nationalists, they are proud, and they are not ashamed of it. And so, as we go forward, the most important thing that we have to do going next year is ensuring, because we don't have a gubernatorial election, we don't have a Senate election, our congressional delegation is Democratic in Central Florida, we have to focus on winning the presidency and winning it, and taking it from Donald Trump. If he wins, America will be saying that it is okay, it's good. These are exactly the policies that we need, and this is exactly the direction that we want to go. And that's not the country that my family came to after fleeing Cuba and losing everything. Somebody a lot like Trump, who promised the world, said we're going to give you everything, and then chipped and chipped away, and ultimately took everything. He's taking away our values, he's taking away our people, and so we have to fight. And so I'm going to ask all of you to please, next year, and between now and then, always, always, always be fighting. It's exhausting. I'm very exhausted, you can probably hear it in my voice. But it is worth it, and it will be worth it, and we will win. So thank you again for all the hard work that you do. Thank you for the award.
Little did our committee know that we would have such an auspicious group of people when we put the call out for nominations. So we congratulate all of our honorees again and say thank you very much, and we have some marching orders from each of them, I think. I want to take just a minute before I give up the microphone to thank the committee. who's been working with me. Wes gives me credit, but I could not do this without my right-hand person, first of all, who is our vice chair, and she doesn't want me to do this, but I'm going to do it. Our vice chair, Nurin Hayter. I still remember when I first became development chair last year, we went to Leadership Blue, and I didn't know anybody, kid you not. And Nurin would say, there's so-and-so over there, go talk to him. Oh, there's so-and-so, go talk to him. So she has paved the way for me, and I really do appreciate it, and is a wonderful vice chair. And then we have some committee members in the room. Let me start with who's in the room. Monica Reedus. Our wonderful communications person sits on all these different committees, but he has been such amazing help to us. Anthony Malone. And then we have two who are in the room. I just want to put their name in the space because they've been so helpful to us. That's John Walker, Khalid Manure, and and Chip, better known as Charles Harris. So thank you for sitting on the committee. Thank you to each of you who have come out tonight. I really do appreciate the support that you're giving to the Development Committee. And don't forget, I have envelopes.
So before I give some final remarks for a minute, I do want to take a moment to recognize our representative from the Florida Democratic Party, our newly hired Community Engagement Director, Mr. Harrison Angeles. And would you like to come down and say a few words real quick? Come on up. Give him a hand. So his role is to represent all of Central Florida. He's the one that's the one that gets everything done for us here, from Flagler County all the way down through Polk. So he's got a huge job in front of him, but I want to take a minute to recognize him and let him share a few words. Come on.
So I'll be super short and quick. My name is Harrison Angeles. I'm the Florida Democratic Party's new Community Engagement Director for the Central Florida region. And I will answer the first question that's going to come to your mind. No, I'm not still in school. I'm 26. I just happen to look very young. But I see a lot of faces here that I recognize, a lot that I don't recognize, and I'm really excited to be working with all of the DECs and other community organizations here in Central Florida. I've called this area home for the past 16 years of my life. I'm a proud Seminole County resident, but thank you for having me be your guest tonight. No matter what it is that you can contribute, be it just phone banking, knocking on some doors, and I heard there are some envelopes in the room, so make sure you can do that as well. And there's no greater joy I see in our community coming together and helping one another. And then my second greatest joy in life is flipping seats from red to blue. So I'm really looking forward to working with all of you so much.
Thank you. I just want to take a couple minutes to acknowledge a few people, if you'll indulge me. We do have some of our previous Grassroots Award winners in the room. Monica Reedus. I believe that's everybody. I don't think I missed anybody, did I? All right, good. And I just want to give another shout out. If you haven't heard yet, our initial Dr. Alzo J. Reddick Award winner, Desmond Meade, was just named one of the Time's 100 most influential people in the world. So I'm not saying that the bar is high leaving this room, but don't let this be the end. Continue going forward. I would like to also take a moment, if you're a member of the Orange County Democratic Party, just raise your hand so we can acknowledge you and say thank you very much. I appreciate it. Without you all, we could not be here. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge all of my board members. My board members, please just raise your hand for a second. I don't get to do this very often in front of people that aren't DEC members. So I have the pleasure / torture of being the head of the organization. And it's me that gets all of the glory or all of the shame. But were it not for the people at this table and the people in the DEC who work every day making phone calls, working to get dollars, working to make sure that our message is getting out to our voters, I wouldn't have the ability to do that. So please join me in humbly saying thank you to everybody here from the Orange County DEC. So with that, we have a lot of work to do. 2019 is not a year of rest. We must get out there. We are going to be out there knocking on voters' doors to talk to them. We have, in Orange County alone, 50,000 Democrats whose vote by mails have expired. And our mission is to get those 50,000 voters re-enrolled in vote by mail. And then another 20% on top of that. So we've got a lot of work to do. So keep making those phone calls, keep helping us write the postcards, keep helping us knock on doors, because not only do we have to defend the Democrats who are up for re-election, we've got County Commission District 3 and 5 up for re-election. I want to flip one like you have no idea. I have 6 constitutional officers, Tax Collector Randolph included, who we have got to get re-elected. We've got to keep those all blue. We've got 3 state senators, Senator Torres, Senator Bracey, and Senator Stewart, which all have to be re-elected. Yeah. We've got 7 Democrats at the state house that have to be re-elected, and 2 seats to flip.
That's right.
Which we've got to work on.
That's right.
And we've got a school board seat to flip and 3 others to defend. So there's plenty of work going into 2020, and that starts right now. So as we leave out tonight, I would appreciate you joining us as we continue to go out and speak to our voters. And as you speak to the voters and as you hear things that they say that are important to them, bring them back to us so that we can take them to our elected officials and get that message across so that we can improve our community and make it a better place. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for supporting our organization, and thank you for recognizing the contributions of all of our honorees this evening. Please join me one last time in giving them a huge round of applause.